Vice President J.D. Vance blames Democrats for government shutdown, says it inflicted needless pain on Americans. Washington, D.C., Vice President J.D. Vance delivered a pointed critique of the Democratic Party on the Fox News program Hannity, arguing that the recent federal government shutdown caused unnecessary suffering for millions of Americans while accomplishing nothing in terms of policy gains. Speaking on live television, Vance described the shutdown as a self-inflicted wound that disrupted the lives of everyday citizens, federal employees, and essential services across the country. The government shutdown inflicted massive pain on Americans and achieved literally nothing, Vance told host Sean Hannity. It created chaos for our troops, caused air traffic controllers to worry about missing paychecks, led to flight cancellations, and made people dependent on government food programs uncertain about whether they would receive benefits. And for what? Nothing at all. Vance, a prominent figure in Republican circles and a former U.S. Senate candidate, framed the shutdown as the result of intransigence on the part of Senate Democrats. According to Vance, the deal that ultimately reopened the government was identical to one previously offered to Democrats, yet it was rejected weeks earlier. "We could have struck this exact deal 45 days ago," he said. "We met with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and told him we were ready to pass it. They said no. They chose conflict over compromise." The government shutdown, which lasted 43 days, had wide-ranging consequences. Federal employees faced furloughs or delayed paychecks, museums and cultural institutions closed their doors, and essential government services faced operational challenges. According to the Congressional Budget Office (CBO), an estimated 750,000 federal workers were impacted, and the daily cost of lost productivity was approximately $400 million per day. Programs serving low-income Americans, including the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program (SNAP), were particularly affected, with millions uncertain about receiving their benefits. Vance highlighted these effects as emblematic of the Democrats' unwillingness to act in the public interest. Vance warned that the longer the shutdown persisted, the deeper and more painful the cuts would be. "Some of these cuts are going to hit hard," he said. "And the longer this goes on, the worse it gets for ordinary Americans, not politicians in Washington." He also criticized what he called the left wing of the Democratic Party for prioritizing political goals over the welfare of the public. "They were willing to burn down the entire country to get Trump," he asserted, referring to former President Donald Trump. "They didn't care about air traffic controllers, our military, or families relying on government assistance. Their priority was partisan politics." While Republicans, led by Vance, emphasized that the government reopening marked a resolution, Democrats have argued that the GOP bears significant responsibility for the crisis. Democratic officials contend that Republican leadership used the shutdown as leverage to push broader policy changes, including cuts to government programs and restructuring of federal agencies. White House officials reportedly warned of mass layoffs and furloughs during the standoff, highlighting the urgency of passing a funding measure. Democrats also stressed that they were fighting to preserve subsidies for the Affordable Care Act (ACA) and ensure low-income Americans continued to receive vital health care coverage. These policy disputes contributed to the impasse that triggered the shutdown. Despite the political finger-pointing, the shutdown had tangible effects on everyday life. Federal workers went without pay, and services ranging from research laboratories to national parks were disrupted. Institutions such as the Smithsonian and the National Zoo closed temporarily due to funding lapses, while essential personnel in the military, border security, and air traffic control continued working without guaranteed pay. Economists and analysts warned that shutdowns carry broader economic consequences, including delayed contracts, slowed government operations, and reduced consumer confidence. Vance acknowledged these impacts, emphasizing the cost in both human and economic terms. "Billions of dollars of productivity were lost during this period," he said. The reopening of the government was ultimately achieved through a continuing resolution that maintained FY 2025 funding levels until January 30, 2026. The agreement provided a temporary reprieve, allowing negotiations for the full FY 2026 budget to continue. Funding for SNAP and other critical programs was included, ensuring assistance for millions of Americans dependent on federal aid. Vance insisted that the deal represented a straightforward resolution and that the Democrats' earlier rejection was what caused the prolonged shutdown. "The deal we passed was exactly the same as the one Democrats rejected weeks earlier," he said. "This shutdown could have been avoided entirely if they had simply agreed to it." Political analysts noted that Vance's framing reflects a broader Republican strategy, placing the blame squarely on Democrats while portraying the GOP as responsible negotiators. by emphasizing that the deal